The primary critique of Kuroko's basketball is its departure from realism when compared to its iconic basketball predecessor, Slam Dunk. Instead, Kuroko's basketball represents a stylistic evolution in the sports manga genre through utilizing a battle framework to explore the psychological and archetypal extremes of the sport through the generation of miracles, a group of 5 prodigies who have reached their prime way earlier than expected, therefore surpassing the average player by bordering on the supernatural. But what captivates me even further is how I cannot shake off the fact that I'm drawn to characters like Omine, Kise, Akashi, and Midorima, a feeling generally evoked for the hero of the show. Their presence often overshadows Kuroko's position as the titular protagonist of the anime. The only thing that makes him worthy of playing alongside these powerful athletes is his use of misdirection that exploits defenders' field of vision. And as a form of recognition, he's referred to as the Phantom Sixth Man of the group. Just like Omine, Kise, Akashi, and Midorima, Kuroko's partner in crime and the star player on the Serin High team, Kagami, embodies the ace as well. All of these characters possess a certain type of charisma, alpha traits, backstories, and hero's journey beats that they each undergo independently from the main plot. All of the elements that are typically associated with the hero of the show when sticking to the traditional conventions of the sports genre. Moreover, Kuroko is quite an anomaly due to his fragile build. In contrast to these aces, his playstyle involves relying on his teammates for support, which sparked my interest in finding out why he remains the protagonist, even though he lacks in all the qualities required for a character in the spotlight. Because when we take a closer look at Kagami, he fits the classic hero profile accurately. Apart from his distinguishing jumping power and determination, he's always the center of attention, influential, plus he's constantly evolving and improving. His progression in learning to dunk, entering the zone, and finally developing the Meteor Jam mirrors the power scaling found in Naruto or Dragon Ball Z. On the other hand, Omine represents the fallen hero. Cemented as the ace of the generation of miracles, his formless shot embodies the ultimate individualistic player. His arc is a subversion of the typical sports protagonist because usually main characters strive to become the strongest, however he starts out as the strongest. His cynical mantra, "the only one who can beat me," is a tragic twist on the hero's journey, reflecting a soul-crushing boredom that is born. And his initial happiness for the game got replaced by a profound sadness as the lack of a challenge turned the sport into a chore instead. While Akashi exhibits the sovereign protagonist, apart from being the only first-year captain at Rakuzan High, which is basically unheard of, his Emperor Eye allows him to predict future movements of his opponents. His absolute authority and dual personality ironically gives him the gravitas of a final boss, attributed to his unfortunate backstory of immense pressure and perfectionism, which is a narrative arc that could easily sustain its own series. The Teko Middle School arc showcases that his leadership and internal struggles dictated the trajectory of the entire program. Whereas Kise encompasses the growing talent, he is well known for his copying abilities as he can replicate any technique he sees identically, often with more power than the original. His adaptive nature makes him more versatile as a player, and as the only first-year starter at Kaijo High, he remains a rapidly evolving character who often feels like a secondary protagonist, undergoing his own trail of fire. And lastly, Midorima possesses several thematic and structural attributes that align with traditional shonen archetypes. His specialized aimless range allows him to shoot with 100% accuracy from any point of view on the court, provided that his form is undisrupted. He also maintains a rigorous, almost ritualistic dedication to his craft. His domineering commitment to the fundamentals of the sport are qualities that typically define a model protagonist. And he's the only one out of the entire group who never stopped practicing or attending team sessions even when his teammates became arrogant and detached. Even though his arc is slow and does not shine as bright as the other characters, Kuroko remains the protagonist of this particular narrative because the message the author Tadatoshi Fujimaki is relaying is a philosophical critique on the very ace culture these characters symbolize. Because eventually the generation of miracles abandoned teamwork for individual superiority. So by making the protagonist someone who cannot win alone, Fujimaki forces the story to focus on teamwork rather than the individual. Essentially, as the shadow, Kuroko serves as the anime's moral and philosophical anchor, which makes him the only character capable of saving the prodigies from their own isolation. He achieves this by utilizing this very basketball style that's rooted in the necessity of others. Working as a unit is a serene principle that aids him in defeating his former teammates successfully. Another consideration is that in some cases, sports animes produce main characters that are underdogs or might generally not be the most popular character of the sport, but stays crucial as leads who overcome adversity through sheer willpower and athletic prowess, which keeps us as the audience engaged in seeing how these characters evolve as athletes. Just like Hanamichi in Slam Dunk, where his first-year rival Rokawa is considered as the undisputed ace of the Shohoku basketball team instead. Kuroko's own backstory is rooted in a deeply personal struggle that defines his shadow persona. Before becoming the Phantom Sixth Man, Kuroko was a failing player who even considered quitting. But his motivation was ultimately tied to a promise made to his childhood friend, and Dagashi also managed to help him weaponize his misdirection. This moment of discovery is a pivotal origin story that gives him a unique mechanical identity in the sport, allowing him to remain relevant alongside the generation of miracles. He also has to constantly reinvent himself. Initially, he could only pass, and eventually realized that in order to support his team even further, he had to develop individual skills like the vanishing drive and the phantom shot. Even though Akashi, Midorima, Kise, and Aomine embody hero traits, the generation of miracles ultimately functions as a collective antagonist and set of foils that highlight the thematic conflict of the series. Just like how Kise is a foil to Kuroko's lack of talent, highlighting the theme of how hard work and specialization can rival adaptive genius. While Aomine's narrative becomes a cautionary tale about the loneliness of reaching the peak too soon, which turns them into complex characters just like Akashi and Midorima, making all of them fit the hero and anti-hero tier ascribed to the great character writing of the anime. Apart from that, it's safe to say that the other reason for why these characters feel so protagonist-esque is to emphasize the scale of the challenge Kuroko faces. For his philosophy of teamwork to have weight, the individuals he faces must be truly formidable. Therefore, by giving Akashi, Aomine, Midorima, and Kise attributes of a main character, Fujimaki makes them walls Kuroko has to overcome. And in time, the strong ensemble exists to prove that even a collection of alphas can be defeated by the shadow and light working in perfect synchronicity. This exceptional character writing extends over to side characters like Izuki, who possesses the eagle eye, and Koganai, who depicts the reality of the everyman athlete that counters the supernatural abilities of the main stars. Even those from opposing teams are granted distinct internal motivations that mirror the primary conflict where the antagonism is rooted in. Just like how Aomine's teammate Sakurai's apologetic nature masks his lethal shooting ability, and Takao, who's a foil to Midorima. Their premise examines the pressure of playing alongside greats like them, underlining the psychological toll of elite competition, proving that the antagonistic nature of multiple characters is not menial animosity, but rather a manifestation of the character's intense desire for self-actualization. In literary analysis, this is referred to as relatable antagonism, where the rival team is given enough screen time and emotional context to justify the drive, making the eventual defeat or victory feel earned. The same can be said for the Uncrowned Kings, who likewise are a collection of elite individuals who grapple with the weight of their own perfectionism. By giving each rival an ideological mountain to climb, the series ensures that each match is not just a physical contest, but a clash of fully realized life principles. By weaving these personal stories in a high-pressure environment, Fujimaki shows that every match serves as a character study rather than a sequence of athletic feats, transforming the basketball court into a stage of exploring human limitations and the pursuit of excellence. By humanizing these side characters, the plot ensures that as the audience, we perceive Kuroko's basketball as a living, breathing ecosystem where every player has a strong motivation for being on the court. Another supporting character who's granted with the same depth that's reserved for the lead existing outside of the generation of miracles is the former ace and founder of the Serene basketball team, Kiyoshi. As one of the lesser-known uncrowned kings like Akashi, he also has a backstory that qualifies him to have a plot centered around. This coincides with his unique playstyle that blends with his high basketball IQ, which depicts his strategic depth normally suited for the lead. If the anime had focused on his perspective, it would have shifted from being a story about finding shedding one's light to a poignant drama about resilience, the physical toll of athletic ambition, and the struggle to remain relevant in a world that has moved past one's prime, which is a testament to his uncrowned king status. The group of players who in any generation would have been the undisputed stars of the sport, as they are defined by their immense talent and their ability to dominate the court, yet were unfortunately born in the same era as the generation of miracles, effectively relegating them to second-tier fame. The narrative significance of this group demonstrates the cruelty of disparity. They portray individuals who have pushed their human limits to the absolute edge, but still find themselves unable to overcome the innate, almost supernatural gifts of the generation of miracles. This further illustrates that just like the generation of miracles, Kiyoshi has a different function within the plot. Essentially, his presence provides the anime with a grounded human heart that balances the more fantastical elements of the plot. All in all, it's apparent that Kuroko's basketball makes use of a decentralized narrative structure instead of relying solely on a singular protagonist growth. Rather, the ensemble cast has unparalleled character development that remains one of the anime's strong points apart from the epic basketball matches.